Alright, so getting started with this, we're going to be modeling just the head of this Lego minifig. So this is the start file. You'll want to make a copy of this so you can edit it. So you're going to go here and click copy. Let's do copy 2 because I've done this before. And you need to choose a location to copy it to, so you may have probably just owned by me as an option. Alright, so just a caveat here, this is going to be a little rough. I don't have a mouse and I'm just doing this kind of on the fly. So we're going to walk through this quickly with as much instruction as I can possibly provide, and hopefully you'll get the gist of what we're doing here. So our goal is to model the head complete with a smile and two eyes here. So to get started, just to see what's going on, we have a diagram which is two images, one that has a facing forward minifig and then the side view, and I know that the side view is flipped, so don't worry about that. It's the only way I could import it. But we're going to use those for some measurements, and it is to scale, so as we make lines we can see that it pretty much matches up with the drawing space. So let's get started. So we're going to start on the front plane. We're going to create a sketch. So we already have a sketch in here that's extra that has nothing on it, sketch 3. Sketch 1 and sketch 2 have the images for the diagrams. So if you ever need to hide those, it's sketch 1 and sketch 2. Sketch 3 I just happen to include, which is blank, so I'm going to go ahead and double click on that. And it is set to sketch on the front plane, which is what we want. So we're going to sketch on the front plane. I'm going to right click my view, my area here, and then select view normal to sketch plane. That's going to rotate it straight on there. And now we're ready to sketch. So you can see from the diagram we have a basic rounded rectangle shape, and the measurements for that are 8.5 and 10.2. So I'm just going to quickly go through this. If you need to pause or rewind to get caught up, you can. But to get started, we're going to use this rectangle tool, and we're just going to click over here somewhere random, make a rectangle, and the next thing we're going to do is dimension it according to the measurements we have here. So, okay, one final tip. If you create your rectangle, let me just show you the wrong thing to do. So in Onshape, there's tons of constraints. You can have a constraint and not even know about it, like if it's horizontally aligned with this point of origin, and you just click randomly to create your rectangle. Let's just say this is what happens, and then you go to dimension it. This is going to be fine here, 8.5, yada yada. And then the top is 10.2. And then I want to attach it here somewhere. So I'm going to need to make a point. That's the next part. And I want it to be right here. So I just create a little point there. Then I'm going to distance that. I'm going to measure the distance. Click from there to there. And this is going to be exactly 1 millimeter away. Okay, so this is going to be an anchor point for my rectangle. And then let me show you what can happen if you accidentally add a constraint that you weren't aware of. So what I want to do next is I'm going to use the midpoint constraint. And if you have a larger screen, you may be seeing expanded tools. So these are actually up here somewhere. If not, just find the one that says coincident. That's one of your constraints. Click on the arrow next to it and you should be able to see this list of constraints. The one we're looking for is midpoint. So I'm going to click on that and then select the line, the bottom line. I want the midpoint of this line to be attached right here. So that would align our rectangle with the drawing. So when I click here, it's going to have an issue. It's because when I originally drew this, I referenced the point of origin, and so this is now horizontally constrained, which means it cannot move up. It can't move here. And that's because it has this constraint. When I hold my mouse over it, you can see this dot lights up yellow, and then the line also turns yellow, which means those are the two elements that are horizontally constrained. So I can solve this problem by removing that constraint. So I'm going to click on it. It doesn't really highlight very well, but it is selected, and I'm going to press backspace on my keyboard. Now that that constraint is gone, it is able to move where I want it to move. So if that happens in the future, if you get all that alarming red stuff happening, it's 99% of the time related to a constraint that you didn't know that you applied. So something is stuck together, like it's either tangent or parallel or vertical or horizontally aligned, and so you can't move it. So that just takes some practice getting to know like how to avoid that and also how to fix it if it does happen. So if it happens to you, feel free to reach out with any questions. So now we're ready to move on. That took a long time to explain that. Next, we're going to round the rectangle angles here, and we can see the radius is 2. So for this, we're going to use this tool called the Fillet tool. And to use this tool, there's multiple ways. You could either click on corners to round them, or you can select 2 lines that are connected by a corner. So to me, it's easier to just click on the corner where they're attached. It will immediately start to fillet that corner, and the measurement, you have to play around with this to see it change. So if I grab the arrow here and adjust it in and out, you can see there's a value that's changing. So for now, I'm just going to eyeball it so I can select the other corners. Whoops, I just clicked too many times. You can always go back in and do more corners if you want to, but it's easier if you do all of them at the same time. So let me go ahead and undo that step. Grab the Fillet tool, and what you want to do is start selecting corners. Again, if you do this and only do one corner at a time, you can do that. You just have to set the measurement once, and that should duplicate the same setting with every other corner. See, I have 1.931 there. So I'm going to go ahead and click the next step. After you select the corners that you want to fillet, then you just click anywhere in the space where you see that little mouse symbol. So just click. That finishes the fillet, and then the next step would be to give it a measurement. So this we want to be 2, enter. So now we have a perfectly rounded rectangle with a radius of 2. So we're ready now to do the next step, which is we need to divide our space in half. So we're going to grab the line tool. This needs to be a real line, not a construction line. So I'm going to go ahead and click at the bottom here and then draw a vertical line until it meets the top. It's going to divide my face in half. So now I'm ready to create my first part. So I'm going to click the check mark. And then to do this, we're going to use the Revolve tool. So I'm going to click on the Revolve tool, and then this box appears, and the first thing it wants is the faces or sketch regions to revolve. So you want to click on either half, doesn't matter. Click on the half. Then it needs to know the revolve axis. So what's going to happen is it's going to revolve this around this center axis. So I'm going to go ahead and click in this reddish box there. Now I can select the revolve axis, which is the center line that we just created. And that should create the general shape of the head. Go ahead and click the check mark. And the next thing we're going to do is model the little nub at the top. That is a 4.9 millimeter circle. So I'm just going to go ahead and hide the 2 sketches here so they're not confusing. Whoops, I just revealed the planes. hide the sketches. So again, that was a 4.9 millimeter. So I'm going to view from the top now. Get a sketch. Make sure I'm sketching on the top of the head. So I'm going to go ahead and just orbit to make sure that's on the top of the head. Yes, it is. And then we're ready to draw our circle. So make sure you reference this point, which is referencing the point of origin, which is the center point. I'm going to go ahead and click there, and then just click a random spot. Then we're going to dimension this to be specific. 4.9 millimeters, 4.9. Enter. Okay, now we're ready to extrude this. So go ahead and click the check mark. And then we'll go into the sketch to see what the dimension is. I forget, so let's go ahead and orbit so we can see 1.78. That's this measurement here. 1.78 is what we want. So go ahead and go into the extrude option. Click on your little circle there in the top. And then type in for the depth 1.78. All right, the next thing that we did in class, just a little something extra here. Let me hide this sketch. You can see if you zoom in here, the top of this is kind of like a beveled edge. It's got a rounded edge there. So we're just going to try to make that as realistic as we can. So we're going to use in the 3D modeling tools, there's a fillet tool. Let's go ahead and find that. And if I click this right now, it's going to remove the entire corner because the radius is 2 millimeters and my height is only 1.78. So it's basically taking the entire corner off. So we want to change this radius to something very small, like 0.25. So then we have a nice rounded edge there, and then click the check mark. All right, that's looking like our drawing. Next, we're going to model the neck and make a hole for it to attach to a body. So the neck measurements aren't provided. There's no dimensions here, so we're going to use the line tool to get a general gist of what we're doing here. So let's go ahead and create a sketch. We're going to do it on the front plane, and if you want to, you could just watch this part. You don't have to really do it, but I'm going to go ahead and actually, let me just get out of this sketch. Sorry, it's a little confusing, but I only needed to reference the drawings. I'm going to go into sketch 2 and just make a couple measurements here. All right, so what I need to know is the distance between the head and the body. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab a line tool and just measure real quick. Looks like it's about, oh yeah, it's 1 millimeter. That's what we had, the distance between here and there. So that's 1 millimeter. Let's just measure across here. We use a different line. Sorry, I'm just actively thinking in this video, so sorry you have to go through this process with me. So go ahead and click there and measure across to that side. Then we'll get the dimension tool just to see what we're working with. It says 6.33547. So let's do 6.5 or 6. Let's see what 6 looks like. It's a little small, so let's do 6.5. That looks a little large. Let's do 6.25. Okay, let's try that. All right, now we've got a measurement. We have a depth of 1 millimeter and a diameter of 6.25. So keep those things in mind. 6.25 is a hard one to remember. Go ahead and accept the sketch. Now let's orbit so we can see the bottom here. I'm going to go ahead and hide this sketch here. And then we're going to create a circle. So we need a sketch on the bottom. So we're on the underneath part of the head. Click on that to place your sketch. Then we're going to sketch a circle. I'm going to orbit so I can see that I'm connecting it to the right spot. And then dimension this. It's supposed to be 6.25. I just wanted to see if that's sticking out beyond that curve area, but it doesn't look like it is. That looks almost perfect. Okay. We're going to leave it like that, and then we need to extrude this. And the depth is 1 millimeter. So we've got the basic shape here. Click the check mark. Now we need to make another circle, so I'm going to sketch on this plane. And let's see. The hole on the sketch 1, if you see, almost all of the holes that you see are this 4.86 measurement. You see that there, where there would be a hole, and down here, 4.86. So I'm just going to use that measurement for now, and it may need to be adjusted later, but we're going to use that 4.86. Let's just round it to 4.8. That's easier to remember. So now I need to get back in and start a new sketch. This is my sketch 6. And we're going to draw a circle that is 4.8. Draw the circle and then dimension it. 4.8. Okay, and then we're going to, I'm just going to hide the other sketches for now. They're just in the way here. All right, we're done with the sketch. Now we're going to extrude, and we want to use this cylinder to remove a cavity in the head so it can attach the body. So we need to switch this to remove, which if you orbit, you can see this putting a hole all the way through it, which we don't want to do. So we need the depth, which that is found in one of the sketches. So I'm going to have to turn that sketch back on. So in here you can see there's a measurement, and we're backwards. So let me orbit around. Looks like 5.79, so let's do 5.8. Just as a nice round number, 5.8. So we're going to extrude this 5.8. Again, this is removing material, so it's somewhere inside. Go ahead and click the check mark. I'm going to go ahead and hide the sketches so you can see what this should look like. Orbit around. So you see there's now a spot for this to attach to a Lego minifig body. So we've got the general head shape. So the last thing we're going to do is focus on the face. So to do that, I'm going to reveal sketch 2 again. And we have this nice smiley face here. And I forget, which side it ends up on, but we're going to go ahead and sketch looking at the front. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new sketch for my face things. Choose the front plane. So now you can't see your planes because we're towards the bottom here of all your elements. So if you need to scroll to the top, you can see the option for top, front, and right. Or you can reveal your planes by clicking on the P key on your keyboard. Click zoom out so you know what you're looking at here. But we want to sketch on the front plane. So now I can select it here because it's revealed, or I can select it over here at any time. So just click there. Now you should see front plane as your sketch plane. I'm going to go ahead and right click, view normal to sketch plane. It's just going to rotate it there in place. Zoom in to where the face should be, and I'm going to hide my part. That's just my solid there. And you can see there's some measurements here that are going to be helpful. So we're going to start by creating some guidelines. We've got the center line here. Let me see if this does anything. If I attach, I'm going to go ahead and attach a construction line. So again, enable the line tool and construction option. I'm going to click on the point of origin and just make a vertical line straight through the top here. It doesn't matter how long. All right, and then we have another guideline here. So I'm going to go ahead and model that. Let's go ahead and just needs to be horizontal. So I'm going to click over here and make sure it's horizontal. For some reason it's parallel to the top instead of horizontal. That's fine. Same difference. Okay, and then we have a distance from here to the top of where the head would be, and I don't have anything. This is just an image, so I'm going to turn on sketch 1 so I can reference. It's not sketch 1, it's sketch 3, sorry. Sketch 3 has our rounded rectangle. So it's supposed to be 3.8 millimeters from the top of the head there. So let's go ahead and get the dimension tool out. This line, we're going to click this line and then click on the top line. That's going to give us this measurement here. Now I'm just going to click to place the measurement, and the distance should be 3.8. All right. Then we have another measurement here, which is 2 millimeters away from this dot. So I'm going to use just a dot. So I'm going to add a point right here where the smile should be. And then I'm going to dimension that 2 millimeters away from the other dot that we created right here on the chin. That should be 2. Okay, now we're ready to start modeling some things. I'm going to create a circle. So I'm going to grab the circle tool. And this is going to be somewhere around here. Attached to that guideline, a construction line, and then I'm just going to click to place it. And I think the measurement for the diameter should be around 1 millimeter. Then go ahead and just grab the dimension tool there, and let me type in 1. It's about 1 millimeter, maybe a little more. 1 looks good though. So if you want the exact placement from this line to that line, you could dimension that. It's not in the drawing anywhere, but I'm going to use the dimension tool to get a measurement between one eyeball and the center line here. That looks about 1.5. So let's do 1.5, enter. Now, I could go through that whole process to create my other eye, or I can just simply mirror this eye on the other side. So we're going to learn how to use the mirror tool. The mirror tool is up here. Find the mirror tool, click on it. The first thing it's saying is to select a mirror line. That would be our center line here. Now that we've selected the center line, now we want to select the entities to be mirrored. So anything that I click on will be mirrored on the other side of that line. So I'm going to click on my eyeball, and just like that, I have my second eyeball. I'm done with the mirror tool. So you can press escape to get out of the tool. So the next part is to create the smile. And this is surprisingly difficult, but let's go ahead and see what happens. So we're going to use the 3-point arc tool. I'm going to go ahead and get close to this thing. So the 3 points, let me just practice over here. You click. Horizontal would be, in this case, we want a horizontal arc there. The 2 points are horizontally aligned. Then this is just the direction of the curve and the radius. So you get a radius that you like and then click. Then you've made your 3-point arc. These 2 lines need to be horizontally constrained, or these 2 dots. So you could either create a line. Let's do that. Let's create a construction line. That's going to allow us to have a center point and make sure that they're aligned perfectly horizontal. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the line and then enable construction. I'm going to go ahead and click from one point to the other. And then I want to make sure that this is horizontal. So before I do that, let me just show you. I'm going to purposely make it, at an angle. Okay, so this obviously is not horizontal. So let me go into the horizontal constraint, click on that, and then click on this line. That's going to force it to be horizontal. So that's one step. The next step I need to do is to find the center point on this line. So if I grab the line tool again, find construction, and find the midpoint of this line, there's a constraint there. I'm going to click to attach it right there, and then straight down or vertically, I'm going to click to attach it to my arc. So you can see, if you're thinking logically through the process here, all this work has created an arc that is perfectly horizontal and is created an attachment point right here for my smile to attach right here. So the next step would be to make this dot and this dot coincident. So in my constraints, the first constraint there is called coincident. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then I'm going to click on the two dots. So this dot here, which is the midpoint of my arc, and this point here. And it should attach right there. So the next things you could do to fine-tune this smile would be, you could determine the length of the arc. So this would determine the length of the arc. So I can go ahead and dimension that. If I wanted it to be exactly 3, I could type in 3. And then the other thing you can determine is the radius, which this radius looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and just dimension this so you can see what it is. If you want a nice round number, maybe 2.5. Let's see what that looks like. That doesn't look too shabby. I'm going to go with that. All right. So it may look like we have eyes and a smile, but these two eyes have regions that can be extruded, but the smile is just a line. It's not a region. So we need to somehow create a smile that has like a region to it, not just a line. So to do that, we're going to offset this line. So we're practicing using another tool. This is the offset tool. Go ahead and find it and select it. And we're going to click on our line, and it's offsetting. Looks like 5 millimeters away, which is way too far away. So first it's in the wrong direction and it's too far away. So if it's in the wrong direction, just click on the arrow. It's going to reverse the direction. And then I can pull it in until it makes sense. Looks like about a 0.25 millimeter gap. So after you choose the direction of the offset, the next step would just be to click to accept the offset items. I'm just offsetting one arc. So I'm going to go ahead and click. And then the next thing would be to add the dimension, which would be the distance between the offset. So the offset is a 0.25 millimeters. I'm going to go ahead and accept that measurement. Now this is still not an enclosed region. There's an opening on either side. So we need to close that in with an arc on each side. So I'm going to grab the 3-point arc again. I'm going to zoom in because we're working with really small measurements right now. I'm going to connect the two dots with my arc. And then I'm going to go ahead and zoom in some more. When you get to a perfect measurement, it kind of snaps to be a perfect arc. It's 0.425, it looks like. That's the diameter or radius. That's the radius of the arc. It's 0.125, sorry. If you're using the same measurements as me, 0.125 would be the radius for that arc. Now we're going to go ahead and do the other arc here. Click and accept it. So now it looks like for some reason this is not fully defined, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Go ahead and click the check mark. It looks like I have a region here, maybe. We're going to find out in just a second. If there are any openings, the next step is not going to work. So it needs to be a completely closed region. So let's see what happens next. So for the next feature, we need to use a special tool. It's called the wrap tool. And there are two parts to this. You need to select the things that you want to have wrapped, which obviously are the eyes and the mouth elements. And then you need to select the surface that you want them to be wrapped around. So before we reveal our parts, we need to select our items. So we're going to find the tool first, and I believe it's found, let's see, I think it's where the plane tool is. Nope. There it is. It's where the Boolean tool is. So find the Boolean tool, or it may be expanded out into your tool set. I'm not sure, but it's hidden in most screens unless you have a large screen. So find the Boolean tool and click the arrow, and there should be wrap. If it doesn't show up there, or you have a hard time finding a tool, feel free to use the tools, search for wrap, and it will show up here. It'll actually show you where it's found too. It'll highlight in yellow the location. So I'm going to select the wrap tool. That opens this dialog box, and we want to select the tools, which would be the regions that we just drew in our sketch. You may need to hide any other sketches that are like getting in the way. So that was sketch 7, and I have sketch 3 still on, and I have sketch 1 and 2 on. So I'm just going to hide those. So focus in on these three things. I'm going to select the 2 eyeballs and the mouth. So you should have those 3 selected as elements there. Now I'm going to click on target, and the target is part of my part. So I'm going to reveal my part, and I want it to be on this surface here. So I'm going to go ahead and click. And for some reason it attaches to the back. So this happened in class 2, so don't worry about that. You may need to orbit around to see what's going on here. So there are the elements, they're selected. And right now they are, for some reason, set to surface, but I want to extrude these as solids. Switch to solid, and you should see this strange thing happen. So it's extruding out as if it was attached to the surface. So this extrusion is too much. So we're going to reduce the thickness to something like 0.4 millimeters. Maybe even less than that. Let's do 0.25. Okay, so you just have a little bump out there. And I prefer to have this be an inset instead of a bump out. So I'll show you the difference, and you can decide what you like. So if you instead of add, you change to remove, it's going to indent the solid instead of have it stick out, which I think just looks a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the check mark, and you can see your finished product. Zoom out so we can see our little head here. That is the end of this lesson. If you are an advanced CAD student in the classroom, I challenged you to create more elements. So if you finish this really quickly, take a look at the sketches 1 and 2, which have our diagrams on here. And you could choose a couple more elements to try to model, like the hands, or if you want to try to do the main part of the body here, you could do that. Or more advanced shapes would be like the arms and the legs, which we don't have very many dimensions on how this actually functions, but you could just model the basic shapes. So again, the point is to just get familiar with a variety of tools and have fun doing it. So that's it.